It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. Welcome to ZiFM Sport on a Tuesday evening. Top Hit Tuesday, we call it in these parts. On the show today, Chris, Sean, our producer, Alois, and me, Barry. What can you look forward to? Well, on the home front, FC Platinum coach Peter de Jong has described their draw in the Champions League as a tricky one, but believes his side has what it takes to progress to the group stage of the CAF Champions League. In international sports news, we have our staple, the Formula One report, which is proudly brought to you by Zimoko, where Ferrari are set to introduce a completely new engine in 2021 as the power-shy Formula One giants bid to return to the front of the grid.
And around the world in 60, we'll start in the United States, where Sergio Garcia has withdrawn from the Masters after testing positive for coronavirus. In news from Australia, India captain Virat Kohli is set to miss 3 of his side's 4 tests against Australia in order to be present for the birth of his first child. And in South Africa, despite not playing a test in over a year, the Springboks have stretched their lead at the top of the official World Rugby rankings.
We'll take a break for our play of the day, and then it's into the beautiful game. Being a Tuesday, we dive into France where Warrior striker Tino Kadewere says he is delighted with his match-winning performance for Olympique Lyon in Ligue 1 on Sunday. In the Premier League, Arsenal legend Ian Wright believes Chelsea are Premier League contenders this season, and according to reports, Zinedine Zidane is fighting to save his job at Real Madrid after President Florentino Perez expressed doubts about the Frenchman. All of that and so much more to look forward to on this edition of ZiFM Sport. But first is our power play. Here's a track called Fire. It's by Anita Jackson. It's featuring Poptane.
The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis. From Rufaro to Barberfields, Mandava to Nyamunga, all the perfect moments in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League come together on ZiFM Sport.
Why don't you catch us on social media at ZiFM Sport is the big handle. And then in our individual capacities, at Gazaman14 is for Alois Bunjira, at Chris Midzi, at Mike Madoda, at Sean Tafirenika, and at Barry Manandi. Let's get after it on the home front. We're talking FC Platinum, and their coach, Peter de Jong, has described their draw in the Champions League as a tricky one, but believes his side has what it takes to progress to the group stage of the CAF Champions League. The FC Platinum will return to Mozambique in their latest CAF Champions League campaign after they were drawn against Costa do Sol in the preliminary round battle. The 3-time Zimbabwean champions will be away in Maputo for the first leg of the contest before taking on Mozambicans in the second leg at home. We caught up with communications manager at FC Platinum, Chido Chizondo, who says the club remain focused on their target to surpass the group stage of the CAF Champions League.
For FC Platinum, it's been a busy couple of weeks, just resuming training and ensuring that all COVID guidelines are in place. Has also been quite a bit of work. However, the team is getting it together. The technical department are working on arranging a couple of friendly matches, and from an administration point of view, we are good to go. I think we've had more than enough time to prepare for our run in the next edition of the Champions League. Our hope is that we surpass the group stages. It does seem like a mammoth task, considering that the team has not been in active football for the past couple of months, but goals are set so that they can be achieved. And as FC Platinum, we've always had that motto. So the technical team are hard at work. From the admin perspective, everyone is also hard at work to ensure that we do the things that we have set out to do. It is always exciting times at FC Platinum when we take on a new challenge, and that is where we are now.
Z.
All right, now in the last Champions League edition, the Savannah-based side met with Mozambican side UD Songo of Beira in the first round. They returned to Mozambique in what Peter de Jong has described as a tricky draw. Alois, would you agree?
Yeah, it is indeed a tricky draw. But let's be honest, Perry, if for FC Platinum, any draw was going to be a tricky draw. Even if we're facing the Sweet Defense Forces, even if we face Maji of any draw was going to be tricky because of the current situation that is prevailing.
And the issue there being that they haven't played competitive football for so long. And you got to say that Alois is 100% correct, Chris, because albeit that they've had a great lead-in terms of training and have been given the right to train a lot earlier than most clubs in Zimbabwe, there's no substitution for game time. There's no substitution for time in the middle.
There's no substitution for competition at all, and we can talk about the fact that they probably have their players are back to fitness. But in terms of match fit and being ready to go on the continent, I think we almost underestimate the intensity of playing on the continent. First of all, you're dealing with completely different conditions, teams and countries that have different ways of doing things. You're going up against these teams that are of a higher standard and breeding than you are. And FC Platinum has not had any kind of competition in the last, call it 10 months or so. They haven't had any competition. So despite any kind of movements in terms of players, the players Peter de Jong has brought in himself as part of the coaching staff as well. In as much as you have all of those factors, there is absolutely nothing that will be able to mitigate against the lack of competition that FC Platinum has had to deal with basically going into this competition. So on the continent, for me right now, FC Platinum needs a hope and a prayer, and I don't know what Peter de Jong is going to be able to do, but it takes a lot more on the continent to have some sort of positive results than it does here at home.
And if they are to surpass Costa do Sol, Alois, it's not getting any easier, because then they go into the next round, the next qualifying round, the final qualifying round, and they will play either Plateau United of Nigeria or Simba Sports Club of Tanzania, who are two tricky encounters. The Nigerian side less so, but Simba have been on an upward trajectory for a very long time, so it doesn't get any easier for the Platinum Miners.
It doesn't get any easier, Perry, when you look at it. They are playing against Costa do Sol. Costa do Sol is one of the top teams in Africa as well. They are going to have to play so well for them to win. And like we said, they are in a situation. Now, this very situation now, it's made worse by the fact that in Tanzania, they have been playing football non-stop. This is a fit side. This is actually a big side that has grown over the years to be one of the big teams in African football. And then teams from Nigeria. Plateau United has been there for a long time. The Nigerian teams are always there and about. So it's very difficult for FC Platinum. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in FC Platinum's shoes right now. I'm a Zimbabwean. I would love FC Platinum to do well and qualify. I hope they do well. If they do that, it's a bonus. They would have done me a very good favor. I'll smile. But at this moment, when I look at the road that they are traveling, it's a very, very bumpy road, very bumpy and tough.
And I think we can also add to that they've lost a couple of players who, when they were performing on the continent, these were some of the players who had an impact on the game. Say, for example, Neva Tigere, he's now with Azam in Tanzania. And if you take a look at his performances on the continent with FC Platinum, when they did win 1-0 at Barberfield, he was the guy who scored the goal. So those impact players that FC Platinum had, your experienced players on the continent, they no longer have a couple of them. And I'm just mentioning Neva Tigere as one. But if you don't have that playing staff that was making the impact for you on the continent, then you're just based off of their previous performances going into this new season where they would have needed players like Neva Tigere, it's an even tougher proposition.
Yeah, that 1-0 win at Barberfields was, of course, against UD Songo, the other Mozambicans, in the last edition of the Champions League. And Never Kadewere still putting in great performances for Azam, and a quality player lost to them. Also, Alois, they've lost the likes of Last Jesse, who's gone out to Sudan to play out for Al Hilal. So they have lost playing staff. They've brought in Silas Songani, who, in truth, we don't know what to expect, because when a player is in the twilight of his career, which Silas Songani in truth is, you're sort of wondering what you're going to get. It's like a lucky dip almost. So Peter de Jong has got quite a bit of work to do.
Yeah, like Chris said, that they actually lost the players that were actually driving them last season, and they didn't really replace them. You're talking about Silas Songani. I'm not so sure about is Silas Songani back Bay? I'm not sure, because the last time I heard he had traveled to Sudan, so they didn't sign him in Sudan.
No, they didn't sign him in Sudan. He actually returned.
Oh, okay. So in Silas Songani, I think so now they actually have a player that can also help drive them. But the problem is Silas Songani is a forward player. Sometimes he's like playing out wide. It's very difficult to actually influence matches, especially in Africa, from that kind of position. The influence of a player like Jesse or Never Kadewere, who play more in the central part of the field where they can actually control things. That is what they have lost now. And now they haven't replaced them. And then they are faced with a situation of match fitness, of awareness tactically, because the players haven't been playing competitive matches, and then they are playing tough matches as well on the continent. So it's everything around FC Platinum right now is actually very tough.
It's actually very tough, and it doesn't help that Peter de Jong himself has been in the eye of a storm, and of late he's placed what seems to be an attack on the Sports and Recreation Commission, and he says that these words were twisted, but you can judge for yourself, because the quote says, "I'm a professional coach dedicated to my job. I am honest and loyal with total respect to the PSL, the SRC, and the football community. Do not use or change my words for your will." That was his response on Twitter. So we know that he's an outspoken coach. You know what you're getting when you sign Peter de Jong, and it hasn't been any different at FC Platinum. We'll see how they do in the CAF Champions League. The hope is that they'll be able to successfully navigate these preliminary stages and then jump into the group stages, hopefully, and make the step forward. But without any competitive football played in Zimbabwe, it's highly unlikely.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
Let's give you your local sports news roundup, starting with athletics news, where long-distance athlete Fortunate Chidzivo says she's had to change her training plans due to a hip injury. Chidzivo is targeting to have a first attempt to qualify for the Olympics in the last week of January next year. She recently moved back to her usual training base in South Africa to be close to her coach, Chris Brewer, as she intensifies her preparation. But for now, she's had to put training on hold at the advice of her physiotherapist, as she focuses on injury rehabilitation. In volleyball, the Matabeleland North Volleyball Association has appointed a new executive whose immediate task it is to continue working on improving the game standards in the province. The elective congress was held in Bulawayo at the weekend. Chairperson Siviso Buhlungu retained his position unopposed, and Isaac Kosilati and Lincoln Moyo coming in as his deputies. Speaking at the congress, Buhlungu called on the new executive to work together on improving volleyball in the province. We'll close over the Warriors update for you. Zimbabwe captain Knowledge Musona says they feel they can collect some points in the back-to-back AFCON qualifiers against Algeria. The smiling assassin arrived in the country yesterday aboard the same flight with the England-based trio of Tendai Darikwa, Adam Chickson and Jordan Zamura. This will be Zimbabwe's first competitive international assignment since last November, when they upstaged Zambia 2-1 in their backyard. Warriors coach Zdravlo Rogarusic has been conducting some training sessions with those who've been in camp since Sunday.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play. From sunny Melbourne to the streets of Monaco, the deserts of Bahrain to the jungles of Brazil. Get up to speed on the Formula One Report. The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoco, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoco, specialized service for special brands.
As always, the Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoco. Now, for many decades, countless pioneering technical achievements have been making Mercedes-Benz vehicles the safest cars in the world. As the only official distributor of Mercedes-Benz in Zimbabwe, Zimoco now know exactly what is needed to keep you and your family safe on the roads. With lots of knowledge, over 50 years of experience, and high-quality genuine parts, our service ensures that you can rely on our components every single day.
Because safety has a home here at Zimoco, service your Mercedes-Benz vehicle with us. With this in mind, Zimoco are offering special pricing on the servicing of your Mercedes-Benz vehicle. Whether you own a C-Class, E-Class, S-Class, ML or GLE class, or a GL, GLS class, Zimoco are here to keep your Mercedes-Benz running the way engineers intended by servicing your vehicle with us.
Let's look at that pricing and just give you some examples. Minor service includes oil filter, air filter, plug, washer, oil, labor, and consumables. And our price range is from $248 to $330 depending on the model and engine size. When you look at the major service, it includes oil filter, air filter, dust filter, plug, washer, spark plugs, oil, labor, and consumables. And the price range for a major service ranges from $438 to $680 depending on the model and engine size.
All minor and major servicing with Zimoco includes a free diagnostic report using Mercedes-Benz Star diagnostic equipment from the manufacturers in Germany, a free vehicle health check, and a customer courtesy bus service from Douglas Road Workshops. Remember, Zimoco is the only official distributor of Mercedes-Benz in Zimbabwe. Therefore, we recommend that you only service your vehicle with us and add value to your car with a Zimoco service record. Stay tuned to ZiFM Sport for more.
On to our Formula One report. Proper now, Ferrari are set to introduce a completely new engine in 2021 as the power-shy Formula One giants bid to return to the front of the grid, with team boss Mattia Binotto stating the early signs are, quote, very promising. After engine regulations were changed at the end of last season, in 2020, Ferrari have gone from being the fastest on the straights to one of the slowest and Formula One title challengers to the midfield. Let's hear from Mattia Binotto, who is optimistic Ferrari will rediscover their top form.
Well, as first looking ahead and looking forward to the future, I think that F1 has to remain somehow a platform for innovation. And that's important. From the technical innovations, innovation is as well about sustainability. I think really our efforts today, together with F1 and FIA, is even to make the sports more sustainable in the future, which is great and important. If you, as you said, if you look at this year, next year, we know that 2020 is a difficult season for us, no doubt. It has been difficult since the very start. Very little opportunities of development. Most of the components frozen. As well, 2021. Few opportunities, brand new engine will be there. We are working very hard on the dyno, really to develop it as much as we can. A few freedom on the aeros for next year. So maybe obviously our objective is to make sure that next year will be a better season compared to the current one.
It's been nothing short of disastrous, hasn't it, Chris, for Ferrari? I mean, you're looking at them, they've got 103 points. That's a quarter of their rivals at Mercedes. That's not good enough.
Not good enough. They're currently sitting in sixth, and it's not something we would expect from a team like Ferrari. This is a traditionally successful team. It's just that because of these rule changes, I think Ferrari needed to almost have an adjustment period, and that's what they've had basically this season. And it's been a bit of a horror show, and what it's resulted in is that there hasn't been nearly enough competition in terms of the top of the table there. If you take a look at Mercedes has been clearing 1-2s the entire season. So any sort of performance in terms of upgrade, in terms of Ferrari doing better, it's good to hear that it's going to be happening, because we need that competition. It can't only be Max Verstappen who's kind of giving the Mercedes team a run for their money. We're going to need more teams to step up in order for Formula One to remain enjoyable.
Yeah, and in truth, Formula One sorely needs a strong Ferrari team. And I think the signs last season due to that straight line speed were very promising, and everybody thought that this is the season where Ferrari would then kick on, but they haven't. And you would think that with the ability to test that they have, because they manufacture engines for Alfa Romeo and Haas for Formula One teams, you would have thought that they would be a little bit better, they would be a little bit more in tune with what needed to be done. But I think the team hasn't had the luck of the draw as they expected to have. So good to hear that there is development happening in the background. Just talking about Max Verstappen, Red Bull themselves have come up through their makers Aston Martin with a very good engine that is proving to be competitive, but not to the level of Mercedes. Even 2021, albeit that we're optimistic, you got to think to yourself, it'll still be Mercedes to beat, won't it, Chris?
It'll still be Mercedes to beat. Mercedes is still going to be setting records. Taking a look at the next season, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, in as much as they're incredible drivers, you have to acknowledge that they have a superior vehicle, a far superior vehicle. In fact, Max Verstappen, I think, has been getting by on a lot of drive, a lot of will, sometimes even fighting with his team during races to in terms of the tactics that he wanted to use. So we've got a definite edge in terms of Mercedes. If Ferrari can come up in the standings, that's much better. If Ferrari can compete, produce a vehicle that is going to be competing with Mercedes, that's going to be absolutely fantastic. But for now, Mercedes have a definite edge, and that's something they'll be holding on to even next season.
Well, they have Ferrari will have a new driver in the seat, because next season Charles Leclerc will be partnered by Carlos Sainz, who's replacing four-time Formula One world champion Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel, who has been rather error-prone in this last season of his at Ferrari, and we'll see if Carlos Sainz will be able to pick up the pieces, as it were, hopefully in a better vehicle. Let's give you a reminder of the drivers standing. Lewis Hamilton is out in front on 282. His teammate Valtteri Bottas is in second on 197 points. Max Verstappen is in third. He's of Red Bull. He's on 162 points. Daniel Ricciardo of Renault is in fourth on 95 points. And then Charles Leclerc of Ferrari is in fifth on 85 points. Sebastian Vettel is sitting way down the order. 14th, he's sitting on 18 points. The constructors' standings, well, it's concluded. Mercedes are the champions for 2020. They currently have 479 points, and will want to build that in the next race meeting. In second is Red Bull on 226. Third, Renault is on 135. McLaren is in fourth on 134 points, and Racing Point is in fifth on 134 points, level on points with McLaren. The next race is the Turkish Grand Prix. That takes place this Sunday.
Z.
Now, when it comes to reliability and value retention for your Mercedes-Benz, Zimoco is the first and only choice for servicing your vehicle. The decision to purchase a Mercedes-Benz is always a decision in favor of safety and quality. The most cutting-edge, high-strength materials, complex body structures, and the networked car electronics of the active and passive safety systems require not only knowledge of the correct procedures for repair, but all the proper workshop equipment. Don't leave your safety to chance. Leave it instead to the specialists from Zimoco, the home of Mercedes-Benz in Zimbabwe.
Why don't you email us on inquiries@zimoco.co.zw for more information, or visit our Zimoco workshop, which is at 24 Douglas Road in Workington, or our Borrowdale Service Center in Sam Levy's Village to get your Mercedes-Benz serviced with us. Last but not least, Zimoco's Body Repair Center is also offering a free headlight restoration for the month of November. Over time, with exposure to sunlight, dirt, rain, which is on its way, and other environmental factors, your headlights can become hazy or yellowed, reducing the amount of light your headlights generate by up to 20%. This makes driving at night very dangerous.
Zimoco can sort this problem out for you by restoring your headlights to manufacturer's condition with full cleaning and fade removal, making driving on our roads at night much safer, especially with the rainy season coming up. Follow our Instagram and Facebook pages, or you can drop us an email, inquiries@zimoco.co.zw for more information. And remember, it's free, F-R-E-E, free for the month of November. So make sure you get in touch today to book your vehicle in for headlight restoration. This is an offer not to miss out on.
The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoco, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoco, specialized service for special brands.
Hi, my name's Ryan Cairns, Sunshine Tour professional golfer, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in the United States, where Sergio Garcia has withdrawn from the Masters after testing positive for coronavirus. Garcia will miss his first major championship since 1999 after he complained of feeling unwell over the weekend after he missed the cut at the Houston Open. The Spaniard was still experiencing symptoms associated with COVID-19 on Sunday evening, prompting him to get himself a test, which would come back positive, although his wife Angela tested negative. In news from Australia, India captain Virat Kohli is set to miss 3 of his side's 4 tests against Australia in order to be present for the birth of his first child. Kohli will lead his country in the one-day international and T20 series that take place in November and December, and will stay on for the opening day-night test at the Adelaide Oval just before Christmas. After that, he'll rejoin his pregnant wife, Bollywood actress Anushka Sharma. We'll touch down in South Africa, where despite not having played a test in over a year, the Springboks have stretched their lead at the top of the official World Rugby rankings. This follows second place New Zealand's 24-22 loss to Australia in Brisbane over the weekend. The All Blacks' defeat to the 6th place Wallabies saw them drop from 91.84 to 90.17 rating points, leaving them some distance behind the Springboks. The Wallabies improved their tally but remained 6th behind Ireland.
Hi, I'm Vario's coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. Z. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport.
Neymar, Mbappé, Depay, and now Tino Kadewere enjoys a taste of the French football on ZiFM Sport.
Ligue 1 is a feature on our Tuesday show, and today is a particularly good one because we're celebrating one of our own now. Warriors striker Tino Kadewere says he is delighted with his match-winning performance for Olympique Lyon in the French Ligue 1 on Sunday. The lanky striker, who prior to the match had told a French publication that he had a dream in which he scored 2 goals in the derby, came off the bench while Rudy Garcia's Chargers were trailing through an Anthony Lopez's own goal 5 minutes before the breather, and having risen from the bench in the 65th and 74th minute, he scored 2 goals. What an introduction of a player to a game, but better still, in a derby. What a fantastic showing, Alice.
Yeah, it was a great showing. I had to, it was an interesting match for me. I follow Ligue 1, and I was very interested. I had to follow the match on the internet, and when I saw him coming on, I don't know, because earlier on in the day we have heard him say that he had dreamt that he was going to score 2 goals in this derby. So when he was coming on, we were like, okay, okay, now let's see the 2 goals. Some I don't know. There was just an air of positivity around everything about it. So we were like, okay, let's see the 2 goals now. And guess what? He comes in, he scored. He didn't score just 2 goals. This was a derby. This was against Saint-Etienne, one of the biggest clubs in France. And the 2 goals, they were not just easy goals, brilliant goals. The first one, did you see the back flick? That back flick, it's not easy to score such a goal. It needs that presence of mind to actually make a decision that this is how I want to score, because he was on the move. And then his split-second decision, you snap it in. And that was brilliant. Then the second one, he showed his maturity, where he is now, where he has come from, what he can do now. He took the ball from way out. He took one defender. He saw another defender in front of him. Guess what he did? He decided that I'm going to take this one on as well. Then he went on. Then it was almost like he scraped through. He could actually see that now if I don't touch this ball, if I don't make a sliding tackle towards the ball, I won't win it. And he did just that. And lucky enough, the keeper thought that the ball was going to be a cutback, but it was going straight into the goals. And those are brilliant goals. Second one is solo. The first one, a very cheeky touch. So well done to Tino. When you see a Zimbabwean doing that in Europe at the highest level of football, you can only be proud.
Absolutely. And in truth, Chris, if it were in any other scenario, fine, he could have come on and then ultimately the game ended 3-1, 4-1 or whatever the case may be. It would just be the case that Lyon was always going to be the better side than Saint Etienne, and we're going to win this game anyway, and it was a matter of time. But when the 2 goals that Tino scored are the difference between the 2 teams in a derby, and there's 9 minutes between the 2 goals, it shows the impact that he had. And I want to borrow a word that Alois used there, maturity.
Yeah, definitely. It's being able to be trusted and to come in and actually deliver and do the job, get the goals for the team. I think what we've seen from Tino is a consistent progression from the time he got to France, from the time he's joined Olympique Lyon. We've seen a consistent progression. He's getting better and better and better. And that's exactly what you require. That's what you're talking about in terms of maturity, is that consistent upgrade to a point where this is a player that the entire team can rely on. And it's, like Alois said, incredibly proud to see a Zimbabwean actually playing at this level, and not just playing at the level, but actually delivering for the team.
Absolutely. And Alois, it's a signing that we thought that Tino was really going to be one of the squad players. I mean, this is a side where we talked about the fact that since Memphis Depay didn't leave, he wasn't going to get many chances. They've also got Dembele amongst their ranks. They've also got Ekambu. They've got also the players who play in the similar position as Tino, but he opted to stick his head down, do the work, and in truth, getting his chances, but delivering.
Barry, you know what? Barry, I'm smiling. I'm smiling. If we could go back to the debate or to the discussion that we had on this very show, we discussed it, and I emphasized that you don't know about football. We don't know what the coach is talking about. We don't know what the coach is thinking about. Why did he bring him? And it's up to Tino to claim his spot in the team. You don't have to look at, there's a Cameroonian, there's Debay, there's so-and-so who is playing my position. No, you just go and play your game. It's up to the coach to start shuffling his players to see where he can fit you in. You may end up all the 4 players that we think might be challenging each other. They might be in the same team, playing in the same match together. You don't know what the coach does. So that's why I was saying Tino must just go there. He doesn't have to look at the names of the players in that team. He was brought in because the coach saw his quality. So he must just go and show his quality. He started a little bit slowly. But look, in the last 5 games, he started about 4 games starting. So you can actually tell this is how far he has gone. He is showing what he can do. And he's still settling, guys. Let's be honest, he's still settling. And from what I saw, he has got the confidence. He still has to grow. He is still growing. He can still get better. And I believe you me, I predicted as well that he is not going to stay long in France. Tino will play football in the English Premier League. That's my prediction. And I will live to see that day.
We hope that day comes very, very soon. Regardless of what happens going forward, he's written his name in the history books because he is the first player in the history of this derby, Saint Etienne versus Lyon, to come off the bench and score 2 goals. Now that's credit to the player.
All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back heels Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudent. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
Some news out of the Premier League. Arsenal legend Ian Wright believes Chelsea are Premier League contenders this season. The Blues have made serious improvements in the transfer market and through the coaching of Frank Lampard. Now they're much more secure at the back while still retaining a huge attacking threat. Alois, this is not surprising. Lampard was backed. He spent over £200 million. This only makes sense that this is the kind of squad that, like Ian Wright is saying, are Premier League contenders this season.
to be honest, Chris, when the season started, not many people gave him a chance. You know, even when he was given the job, remember there was this Twitter handle that went on like Lampard out, blah blah blah. He started a false start last season. People didn't have confidence in him. A lot of people were talking about him not having experience. You know, he struggled and he top 4 just in. You know, so people are not really convinced. You know, but this season he has started well, because now you remember last season Chelsea had that transfer ban and he couldn't sign players and he had to shuffle around the squad. He had to bring in youngsters, and now he has got the best. And credit to him, he bought players that fitted what he was doing at the club, and he got quality. You know, when he got Kai Havertz, when he got Timo Werner, that was the masterstroke. Those two were doing well for their clubs, they were doing well for Germany, and they came in and they added value, and they're still doing well. Timo Werner, what a goal scorer he is, and I put my money on it that he's going to be the top goal scorer in the English Premier League this season. I hope so. Of course, there's Harry Kane, my captain in the fantasy, but they'll be going toe to toe with him, and I think he has found the balance. Lampard has found the balance with Chelsea. You can actually see when they are playing that they are a formidable side. They can actually do well on both fronts, in the Champions League and in the EPL as well. I can actually see Chelsea doing well, because right now when you look at their squad, they've got actually a top squad that can actually go for honours.
There seems to be a balance that's come into this side, and I think that what we did was we looked at the signings that Lampard had made. This is at the beginning of the season. We looked at the signings that Lampard had made, and we doubted his credentials to put them together in a manner that would be balanced and would be effective for this Chelsea side. He seems to have gotten that going, but I think there is something else that's working in his favor, and that is the inconsistency that's happening around him. The playing in empty stadiums has resulted in the big sides not being as consistent as they ordinarily would be. If Manchester City was struggling away or had gotten a draw away from home, when they returned to the Etihad full of fans singing the Blue Moon song, invariably you'd find that the Man City would be able to get back onto the rails. They haven't been able to do that. Ditto for Liverpool. Liverpool are finding it difficult to find their way in these empty stadiums. They're getting the results, but aren't necessarily firing. So all of that inconsistency that's happening around in the league has certainly played into the hands of Frank Lampard and given him time to find that balance within this team. And yes, we can say that they're title contenders, mainly because if you look at the league table, it looks almost like a throwback to 1984, where there are all sorts of teams that are there that shouldn't be there. So consequently, yes, Chelsea are a title contender, and I'm not denigrating in any way, so is everyone else.
Staying in the English Premier League, club CEO Stephen Bettis has said Sheffield United will maintain its opposition to calls for the reintroduction of 5 substitutions in the middle of the 2020-2021 Premier League season, as it would affect the competition's integrity. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp and his Manchester City counterpart Pep Guardiola have been vocal in their criticism of the league's decision not to stick with last season's temporary rule that allowed 5 instead of 3 substitutions.
We have to talk again about the 5. We have to talk again about the 5 subs. And if still 14 teams say, I'm not sure they will say that the 5 subs shouldn't happen, then let's at least let us sub 5 times when we play each other, the top 6 against each other. I have no idea if that's possible, but we have to find solutions. All the teams have to understand why it's so happening. It's not an advantage, it's a necessity, 100%. So, and it's in all other countries it happens. So, and now here we make a bit more fun of the competition by having only 3 subs.
All the leagues around the world except this league, maybe because likes to be different, except to 5 to protect the players, to protect the football, to protect the physicality for the playing every 3 games, because the situation is unusual, is different. So, and that's why I'm still surprised. I don't understand. And since I have a microphone and the people ask me about this, I will have the same theory. And it's not about to take advantage, it's about to protect the players. Today a right back from the national team is injured for that reason.
Alois, just listening there to Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola and their insistence that there should be a 5 substitution rule and this should be maintained even though it had come to a close at the end of the last season. Do you agree with this? Is it something that benefits, like we've talked about before, just the big teams? Because you have your Sheffield United here just saying it's a rule that should be maintained, that we should have those 3 substitutions.
Yeah, look, Chris, look at the coaches that are advocating for 5 substitutes. Klopp, Pep, what do they have in common? They have got a squad. They have got the players. They've got a pool of players that they can play around. You know, you can take out Mane and still put Jota. You can rotate your players because they've got the players. That's why they're calling. But I think it's a disadvantage to the other smaller clubs. I agree with the smaller clubs. We need to maintain the 3 substitutes because once you got 5 substitutes is almost like the whole team because defenders don't really run that much. So you can actually take out the whole attacking force and put in a new attacking force. You look at Man City. Man City, they can take out Bernardo Silva, and all of a sudden they've got Raheem Sterling running around a defender who is already tired. It's unfair because that doesn't work. For me, let's maintain that so that the smaller clubs have got a chance, because otherwise we'll be seeing that smaller clubs being walloped because players are going to be interchanged that are similar and going against one defender who is super tired. It doesn't work. For me, I think we should maintain the 3 substitutes so that when the game is in the 90th minute, all of us are tired. That gives us all a fair chance.
Okay, but Barry, if you take a look at it, there's some justification to this. If you take a look at the fact that these players had barely an off season, came into a new season, and you've got them playing, like Klopp has talked about this before, they're playing back to back to back to back. Having those 5 substitutions is a way to almost manage the load on that particular team. So to some extent, we're all still reeling from COVID-19. So are these teams. So this rule there might be some good reason to have this 5 substitution rule.
Yeah, no, 100%. Look, I'm in complete support of reinstituting the 20 and 5 ruling, whereby you have a squad of 20, you then match day squad of 20, and you have 5 substitutions rather than the 18 and 3, because of the issue that you've just raised, which is the injury prevention protocol that then kicks in. Because look, if you're substituting 5 players, then you're reducing the load on the players that are performing. Yes, the argument is that this benefits the bigger sides, the larger squads, etc., etc. But let me bring your attention to this. In the Champions League, you've got the same ruling, the 20 and 5, and yet Manchester United, let me use Manchester United as an example because that's the one Alois can relate to, was beaten by Istanbul Başakşehir with the same 20 and 5 rule for obtaining in the Champions League. So it doesn't follow that the smaller sides are going to automatically suffer as a result of... No. What I'm saying is, and look at... Alois, look at the end of last season. During the restart, the smaller sides still were competitive. Aston Villa survived relegation by a hair's breadth, for goodness sake, as a result of the 20 and 5. So for me, let's protect our players. Look at how many players are coming up and reporting injured. Liverpool alone, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Virgil van Dijk. You've got Thiago Alcantara has only played a couple of games since he was signed. The injuries that we are making the players susceptible to are not worth the risk that we're putting them through, merely to protect a perceived competitive advantage, which I don't believe actually exists.
The competitive advantage does exist to some extent, but we can argue about this all day.
All right, let's go to Spain. And according to reports, Zinedine Zidane is fighting to save his job at Real Madrid after President Florentino Perez expressed doubts about the Frenchman. Real Madrid have enjoyed a difficult start to the season in both La Liga and Champions League, sitting off the pace in both competitions. And Zidane is now having to deal with pressure from both the hierarchy and his players. And you've got to think to yourself that result over the weekend, Alois, has probably added fuel to the fire.
Yeah, it's not a good result at all for Zinedine Zidane, and I'm a Real Madrid fan, very, and if it was me as well, I would be worried when you start seeing those kind of results happening to a big team like Real Madrid. So like you're right, it's just that result is just added fire to what is already something that is uncomfortable at the club.
Doesn't Florentino Perez himself have to put his hand up? Because perhaps his planning, yes, certainly was affected by COVID, but his financial planning wasn't in tune with what needed to happen on the field of play. He's got an aging squad, your Ramoses, your Marcelos, and in fact his backline is a little bit long in the tooth. And because they're building a stadium, Chris, they can't necessarily splash out or bring in lots of new talent the academy hasn't produced. So perhaps they need to look in the mirror before they look at Zidane.
100%. There needs to be a balancing of expectations there in terms of performance. Zinedine Zidane can only do so much with the available playing staff, and that's just the truth of the matter. If you've got other teams across La Liga, if you've got teams across Europe where they also compete, all of those teams made changes and refreshes, and that's where this club of older players is playing against. So that's going to have an impact. He needs obviously to bring in new playing staff before they can completely hold his feet to the fire to say, you know what, we were expecting certain results. So for me, just those expectations need to be balanced, but I also think it's a conversation that needed to have happened before the season starts. So I'm hoping to some extent it was had, if it was contractual, whatever the case was, in terms of what the expectations were for Zinedine Zidane coming into the season. Because if he had agreed to certain performance conditions, then that's on him, bearing in mind the squad that he had to work with.
When you look at the situation, Real Madrid is Galacticos. They are Galacticos. Their structure is we buy good players ready-made to go and play. That's why the academy is not producing, because they don't do proper work there. I don't know, they are different from Barcelona, who actually bring in fantastic language. So they are Galacticos. They need to buy players, otherwise they have to go back and do their homework at the academy.
Yeah, and they would need to change their model almost completely if they had to change this one. We'll keep an eye on that one. I think Zidane might just survive through the month of November. It's not known whether he will traverse successfully December. Let's keep an eye on what's happening at Real Madrid. We certainly will here on ZiFM Sport. On to a former Real Madrid son in Cristiano Ronaldo. Now news is rumored that Juventus are weighing up the possibility of actually selling Cristiano Ronaldo at the end of the season as they come to terms with the full impact of the coronavirus crisis. We'll have to keep our eye on that one because Juventus are trying to balance their books. We're out of time, but we'll be back tomorrow for Wacky Wednesday, so don't miss that show. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Menande, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.